on, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Goat Shed Sports Podcast. As always, the Goat Shed is hosted by myself, Nick Connect, and my lovely co-host, Jacob Bowles. Jacob, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's been a very stormy day, but it's time to podcast.
It is time to podcast. We delayed the recording a little bit because it was a storm in here, but we're ready to go. I'd like to start this off just thanking you guys. The support in episode 1 was kind of cool. It was good. I had a lot of
It
great
was great to
feedback.
hear.
And we're just ready to roll today's
Guys,
podcast.
we've reached out to you. Nice.
Yeah, and today's podcast is going to be all about the NFL free agency, which has been honestly one of the most crazy NFL free agencies I can think of in recent times. And then,
Actually, how early it started on.
I
Yeah.
know. It's just like big moves after big moves, I feel like. Just a bunch of like moves that are classified as push notification moves. You know, it's like, wow, those are moves that it's going to be sent to everyone's phone that has ESPN. You know, I figured it'd be a fun way to start this off. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. You're a Colts fan. Let's talk about our team's off seasons because they've both done a little bit here in this off season, especially your Colts. So
It's been a little busy for us.
You want to start us
Yeah,
off talking
I'll
about them
definitely
Colts?
we'll kick it off. So, first big name Colts acquired is quarterback Phillip Rivers from the Chargers. Phillip's a veteran quarterback. He over 4,000 yards last year, 20 and 20, so give or take. But I mean, behind a good O line that the Colts have, I think it's a very solid pickup, and I think he was one of the better free agent signings like out there that was able to be acquired. Another one was DeForest Buckner from the 49ers.
I love him.
Had to give up a first round pick, but I mean that's well worth
They're
it
in
for a guy like
win
that.
now mode. They're in win now mode. They're ready to win.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're ready to commit and go full sail, which I'm very happy about because last year was a heartbreak not to make the playoffs or kind of do anything with. And then
also,
Xavier Rhodes
that's a stud.
was,
That's a stud cornerback
yeah,
right there.
that I mean, he's an all. He's very solid. He's gonna help that defense out a lot. It's
And
a big boost.
You add a high caliber player like Xavier Rhodes to a secondary that already has Malik Hooker. That's a good 1-2 punch you got in that backfield.
I mean, Malik Hooker's a young guy too, so that's gonna help him develop and help him perform better. So it's gonna be very nice to see how that goes out.
Of course, and then you look, you know, they already got weapons like Marlon Mack. I'm just interested to see how players like Marlon Mack and, you know, like, for example, T.Y. is not like any receiver Phillip has ever thrown to because the way I think
not at all.
Phillip Rivers is kind of like Jameis Winston in a way where it's a shootout. It's a high flying, deep ball throwing. You know, he's got like receivers like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, like these big guys that can go up and grab 50-50 balls. And then you have T.Y., who is just a god in the slot, who can go deep because he's fast, but he's
just a
little
great
guy.
route runner, and
He's a great route runner and gets crafty on those mid routes. And it's just gonna be interesting to see how they all play together. If T.Y. can be that 50-50
I just think they're
wide receiver.
Yeah, their offense is just so, I guess, like the depth on it is you can go anywhere. You can run it, you can pass, you can do a little bit of everything. And that O line definitely, like I said, helps a lot with running and with the passing game. I mean, he's going to have the time in the world to one of the best guards in the league, if not the best, in Quentin Nelson, who's
I think he is. I think he's the best guard.
Just phenomenal, yeah. And then you re-sign Anthony Costanzo, and it's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, no, I think it's a bright future for the Colts. I think it should be a fun year to see what they can do in Lucas Oil.
I'm hoping it's better than a 7-9 performance, but
I think it will be. I mean,
I think it will be too. I'm not going to give I'm not trying to be too optimistic, but I think it's going to be way better than that. I think it's going to be playoffs this year. I'm hoping.
That'd be cool. I mean, you look at their division, like it's a tough division.
Not the easiest. I mean, Texans won the division going 10-6. It just kind of shows how
and then it's just
everybody kind of.
How are the Texans going to play this year without? We'll get into that later, but that trade.
Yeah, that's later on. That's
so stupid.
Yeah. So Nick, you want to get into the Browns now?
Oh, I would love to get into the dumpster fire that is the Brownies. I mean, I think so far
Oh man.
they've had a pretty good offseason from my standards. I mean, they paid Austin
Yeah,
Hooper
yeah.
the bag, which when we talk about the Falcons, I think the Falcons have had one of the best off seasons, even though uh they did lose Hooper, which I mean, it's not that big deal to them because Hooper. I mean, I like Austin
God.
Hooper. I think he's a stud, but you're telling me that Austin Hooper is now going to be making more than Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, and all those high caliber tight ends. I mean, he's
I
good.
mean,
It gives Baker another target, so hopefully it pans
it's
out.
what the Browns need for sure. Like they need a tight end threat to go along with their already pretty much stud wide receiver core. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that
yeah,
receiving core, you have Odell, you have Jarvis Landry, you have David Njoku, and now Austin Hooper at the tight end. You have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield. It's
yeah,
just
for
like
sure.
that
It's
team, and then they made a really good signing, I think, with Jack Conklin. Getting a, they need to build that lineup. Last year, if you watched a Browns game,
mhm.
that line was either getting a penalty or almost getting Baker sacked a lot.
Yeah, and that's just it's a big momentum killer. Like when your quarterback cannot
Hmm.
do
Yeah.
anything with the ball. I mean,
So I think,
nothing against him because I think Baker Mayfield's a pretty good quarterback. Like,
yeah,
don't get me wrong.
he had I think what it came down to was a sophomore slump. He went into his rookie
Force slump for
year,
sure.
although he was the first pick. He was on the Browns. He did not have expectations whatsoever. And now this year, his second year, he comes in. And it's like you have Odell and Jarvis. If you don't get to at least the second round of the playoffs, then what? It's a bust. And they didn't end up
Yeah.
making the playoffs. But I don't think
I mean,
anyone saw
it's pretty much.
I don't think anyone saw the Ravens going 14-2 or the Steelers after losing everybody going 8-8 still.
No. I mean, I thought Cleveland was gonna for sure at least lock up the second in the division like halfway through,
Oh
but
yeah, it's just
they just couldn't do it. I just
and the big
a lot
momentum
just didn't
turner
happen for
was
him.
when Garrett, when Garrett got
Allen,
ejected after putting his helmet into Rudolph and that whole thing. Which luckily though he's back. The
the
NFL
last
reinstated him
30 seconds of the game,
in a game that you won against your rival. Like, it's frustrating, but
he just it's
he's back.
unexcusable
He's back, and that's the only good thing that
for
the
sure.
NFL reinstated him. I'm excited for the Browns. I said this last year, but they've had another year and another offseason to build chemistry. They got some draft picks to work with, where hopefully they can work on the line. They made another couple signings that I did. I like their signing. They signed the safety, Andrew Senenju. I don't know really pronounce his name. I think he's a decent safety. We don't really need. We got Carl Joseph as well. We picked up a couple more safeties, which is okay. We picked up Case Keenum, so
Oh yeah,
oh man, I don't even know. I think probably the only reason that they picked up Case Keenum was so Baker could have a proper mentor. I think that is legitimately the only reason they signed him.
I don't see that as anything close to trying to them at all. Just to develop Baker, kind of have that decent backup who, in case anything happens,
Yeah,
you
of
have something
course.
else. But
It's just because I mean they've never had like a good backup quarterback. And then
no, I mean, yeah, the hopefully the dumpster fire doesn't continue. I mean, if you look at the names on paper, they look like a very scary team. Like offensively, they look like one of the best
Oh
teams.
yeah, and it's just figuring out how to use all those weapons. I don't want to make excuses, but I personally put a lot of the team's failures last season on Freddie Kitchens because he was terrible. Their new coach,
He just didn't look like he knew what he was doing.
yeah, their new coach. They get the offensive coordinator from the Vikings, and this team is a offensive forward team. If you look at these guys, and hopefully he can just unlock Baker and unlock Baker, unlock Odell more. Because I mean, I wouldn't say it was Odell was disappointing last year. It's just he didn't get the targets that he needed to be Odell.
And Jarvis performed like
Phenomenal,
fantastically.
yeah.
Like he
That's because
stepped up
Baker and
and did
Jarvis had that
everything he
chemistry.
needed to do.
Baker didn't have that chemistry
Yeah,
built with Odell yet. So it's gonna be interesting. They've had another year to work,
yeah,
and I'm
no,
excited to watch them play this year for sure. And then
I think it's gonna be a very good. It's gonna be a very good year for them.
Mhm. And then I teased it a little bit when we were talking about Austin Hooper, but I think the Falcons have had a really good offseason just because their two
Mm-hmm.
big signings were obviously the Rams cut Todd Gurley, and they were able to pick Todd Gurley up. And now Todd Gurley is going to go from the Rams, who are in a horrible line and used him as a cowbell running back, to the Falcons, where if he does split carries, whatever they do, he's on. The Falcons have a great line. So I think it's gonna be interesting to watch Todd Gurley with a good line for the first time in his career. I know he's, his running back window is closing because running backs don't last forever. They take so much wear and tear. But I think it's interesting.
I mean, he's only been in 5 seasons.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting.
So he's still got some miles on him, and then you also look at you have Julio Jones on the team, which opens up so much more in the running game and everything. That's just going to give him so much of an opportunity to get out there and kind of show what he has still. I mean, if you look at his career, he's hit 1,100 rushing yards 3 out of the 5 seasons he's been in the league.
It's
that's
impressive.
pretty.
That's really impressive.
That's insane.
And then you look.
Even last year was down year. He hit 850 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Exactly.
So I mean,
and he had the I believe, I don't quote me on the exact stat, but I think he was number 3 in red zone carries. So he was a red zone threat. You got in the red zone, it was give Todd Gurley the ball. Still, he might have not been going downfield the whole game, but once they got in the red zone, it was this is the only guy you can trust on the team.
I mean, it's hard to stop him. He's very good.
And then the other Falcons move that I really liked was they lost Austin Hooper because obviously the Browns made the highest paid tight end in the league, but they traded for Hayden Hurst off from the Ravens. Hayden Hurst went from, I believe this is going to be his 3rd year in the NFL. He's a stud. They got out of paying Austin Hooper all that money, and then they were able to acquire Hayden Hurst. That's why I think they've had a really good offseason, because not only did they get to pick up Todd Gurley, but they got to dodge a bullet on giving Austin Hooper a $40 million deal.
Yeah, they save a ton of money on that. Here they went 7-9, so before all these additions, they were still a pretty good team. And they just made the Super Bowl 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago.
They've made the Super Bowl. Matty Ice has won MVPs. They just had a down year. I still think the Falcons are a very good football team, and I think this makes them even more scarier.
There's really only the Saints and maybe the Buccaneers this year to compete with.
Exactly.
It's probably going to win the division again, don't get me wrong, but they have a very strong shot of making a wild card team or even surprising us and winning the division. You never know.
Yeah, you never know how that division is going to pan out, how adding Emmanuel Sanders to the Saints is going to do to Mike Thomas. Obviously Emmanuel Sanders isn't what he used to be, but can you name a other wide receiver on the Saints in the last 2 or 3 years besides Mike Thomas? Because the last 3 years, their number 2 has been Ted Ginn. Go Bucks, baby, but Ted Ginn's old and broken down. Ted Ginn would be a number 3 to 4 on almost every other team but the Saints. And now the Saints are able to add Emmanuel Sanders to that high-powered offense between Alvin Kamara and Drew Brees and Michael Thomas.
And I think this is really going to do well for Emmanuel too. You have Michael Thomas, the best receiver, stat-wise, best receiver in the league last year. Another almost 1,000-yard receiver on the team. That's gonna open up the field so much more. You have 2 very good options to go to. Drew Brees, one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Oh, for sure.
Still solid.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with that combination.
That was the really only big moves the Saints made, but it was it's still a pretty good move, I think. I like Emmanuel Sanders.
Oh, 100%.
I was kind of sad that he left San Fran because I'm kind of liking San Fran. I like the vibe of that kind of being Nick Bosa's team already, and I don't know. I didn't expect him to be going to the Saints, that's for sure.
No, not at all.
And then I guess, is it time to get into the other division rival? Are we talking about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick separating here?
The breakup? Yeah, it's big shock. I honestly didn't see this happening at all.
I know, and it's just Tom Brady's old and all, But it's just you just gave Tom Brady, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. I think they're going to be kind of scary. I think it's going to be interesting to see the change because now they're going to be going from a Jameis Winston-led offense where it was a shootout, you're going deep balls, and it's just crazy 50-50 balls. I think
throwing it up, you're hoping for a touchdown. That's all they were doing.
That's why I think it's going to be interesting to see how that affects Godwin and Mike Evans because they've made basically their primes of their careers off catching those crazy Jameis Winston balls and playing in that very high-caliber offense. So now Tom Brady is a completely different quarterback. Tom Brady is a slow and meticulous driver, and his arm ain't as good as it used to be. He ain't chucking Jameis Winston-type throws anymore.
No. It's going to be really interesting to see. It's almost like who's going to win the breakup? Like, were the Patriots because of Tom Brady, or are they the Patriots because of Bill Belichick? Like, it's kind of interesting because I don't know. Like, I feel like if the Patriots still get a decent enough quarterback, I feel like they're still going to be a really solid team. I mean, they had the best defense in the league last year. Yep. They say defense wins championships, but I mean, it's just really, it's going to be weird.
It's going to be crazy to see Tom Brady in a Tampa Bay uniform. Like, if he left, because I had a feeling he was going to leave, but I did not see in a million years that he was going to be going to Tampa.
Tampa Bay is just such a weird. You just never hear about Tampa Bay. Like, exactly. I know they exist, but that's about all.
A lot about them this year. And then another good sign. Well, re-signing.
I was surprised.
What were you saying?
I was just gonna say I'm surprised they still went 7-9 last year. I mean, Jameis Winston's not a bad quarterback. I mean, he just got LASIK. I don't know if that's really gonna or whatever, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're a bad team by any means, even putting them on there.
They made a couple good re-signings. You know, they were able to re-sign Ryan Smith, who's a cornerback, who's a decent player, and then they were able to re-sign, although he is old, they did get to re-sign Ndamukong Suh for another year, who he is old, but he is still just
he's a big dude. Like,
he's a body.
He's a monster. Like, he's definitely gonna some defensive signings, some re-signings on the defensive end. That's basically what they need right now. I mean, their wide receivers that's a really good duo. Mm-hmm. You get a decent enough quarterback in there, and then I mean, they just focus on the defense, and I think they can make a run for everything, even against the Saints. I mean, and the Falcons now. But
it's gonna be a tough.
That's gonna be a good division to watch.
It's gonna be a fun division to watch. Because, it's just going to be like, wow, this division is stacked, especially if the Bucs do pan out.
Yeah, I mean, we can't – there's no way to tell. I mean, you don't know – Tom Brady's never been on another team. You don't know how that's going to work out. He's so many variables at play. It's so weird.
Now, I think it's time to talk about a wide receiver that was traded. Stephon Diggs. Do you think, honestly, that the Bills paid too much for Stephon Diggs? So for Stephon Diggs, the Bills sent over a 2020 first round, a 2020 fifth round, a 2020 sixth round, and a 2021 fourth round pick. Do you think now that is too much for Stephon Diggs, a player who still has not made a single Pro Bowl in his NFL career? Or do you think that was a trade that's going to help not only make the Bills one step better, but also help make Josh Allen one step better?
It's definitely a way better trade for the Bills, in my opinion. I mean, I think, especially since their division's wide now, they just needed to get them the number one seat or the number one in the division, because when you go close to 10 years with the Patriots running it and you finally get your chance, you kind of have to grab it and run.
Of course.
When you look at the bigger name receiver that went and how little they got for him, it's just it's weird to think about.
I guess this is a perfect time to talk about it. How in excuse my language? How in the hell? DeAndre Hopkins traded for David Johnson in a second and fourth round pick, and you got a first rounder, a third rounder, and a fifth rounder, and a fourth rounder for Stephon. Like, DeAndre Hopkins is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and they traded him for a running back who it's just dream chasing on him being how good he was in like 2016 and 2017 on those Cardinals teams. He is only 28, but he's a running back. Their primes and the way that their careers lined up are so different, and it's dream chasing. It still baffles me. I don't understand this trade.
It makes no sense to me. But I mean, like as a Colts fan, it made me happy. Like that was such a great trade to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. That makes the Colts
the
Texans that much more favored.
Nothing. So they got nothing for that.
I guess in the mind of the Texans, are you like? Because I heard there was some between the coach and DeAndre that there was some lingering issues and stuff like that. But as the Texans, are you looking at your team and saying Deshaun Watson's is that good? Like, because they've always struggled with their running back. So are they looking at their team and just kind of saying, we think that Deshaun Watson's so good that it doesn't matter if he has DeAndre Hopkins, that he's going to be able to succeed, and giving him this good running back could be what unlocks the Texans?
I mean, they barely beat the Bills in the first round of the playoffs last year before they did these additions. So, I mean, and that was with D. Hopkins. But, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think they're good enough to get away with making that sort of trade, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the ownership at the Texans is horrible and always has been. You can look back at some of the moves they've made, and sorry, Texans fans. I think the way your front office is, it's sus. It's sus.
Did you see why they're like what they were questioning DeAndre Hopkins about? Like how he compared him to Aaron Hernandez for having like kids with multiple women?
That's crazy.
Like that's messed up. You
can't
do that to your star player and expect him to
be happy in a Raptor City. But I guess we gotta look at this at the end. But for the Cardinals, I guarantee you, because Kenyon Drake, they didn't need David Johnson. Kenyon Drake became a freak after they got him out of Miami, and so I guarantee you, dude, Arizona is bumping right now that they have Larry Fitz, they have Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins for Kyler Murray to play with Kenyon Drake in that backfield. That's gonna be a fun team to keep your eye on and watch, and just watch how the chemistry molds together. And once they do, I think they're gonna be a scary team because I think Kyler is gonna be in the next couple of years one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I really like what I saw out of him in his rookie year, and now you're giving him DeAndre Hopkins.
I mean, yeah, like on his team, his best receiver is Larry Fitzgerald, he's getting older. Like he's still got it and everything, but you put this addition on him, a young DeAndre Hopkins, he's just phenomenal. I mean, arguably the best receiver in the league. Kyler Murray, you give him time to develop. It's a tough division, you know? But they're definitely taking a step in the right direction.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy for sure. I guess one team we can talk about because I feel like we can really just get this in and out of the way. Is Nick Foles really gonna help the Bears that much?
I mean, like I don't know if he's better than Mitch Trubisky. You can go either way. I think he probably is.
Yeah, but
how
much is Nick Foles
Super Bowl in the playoffs? But after it's not enough to push them to like a top. No. I mean, they just can't. They can't like have it. I mean, you saw a double doink, and they don't have it going for them.
And then,
I mean, they were 8-8 with a Mitch Trubisky team.
It's just that defense is overpowering.
For 100%.
I guess, and then, speaking of having that Super Bowl potential, the Ravens made a very good pickup getting Calais Campbell, I think.
Very good. Very good. I mean,
it's just 56 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles last year, and you add that to a defense that already had like 14 Pro Bowlers. The Ravens are a
Yeah,
scary man.
and their offense is just that good too. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just getting better. I mean, it's gonna be scary.
It's gonna be scary.
I mean,
It's
Lamar coming off his MVP season.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Marquise Brown, who's terrific his first year. I mean,
Hollywood Brown, baby.
absolutely fantastic. Lamar. I mean, obviously Lamar, just in a division. I mean, that's the biggest thing too. If you look at it,
Mm-hmm.
if the Steelers don't, Bengals are still not good next year. That's easy wins for them. I mean, it seems like they're gonna have another
Another great
solid,
team.
easy run to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Then another
Yeah.
another team that it's a former Super Bowl champion organization that's made some good moves this offseason. It's the Broncos. I mean, they got AJ Bouye from the Jaguars for a 2024 rounder, which they needed because Chris Harris Jr. actually left and signed with the Chargers, so they lost their best cornerback. So they picked up AJ Bouye with that trade. Then they made Melvin Gordon got a pretty big deal, but they added Melvin Gordon to a running back system that already had Philip Lindsay, so you got two great running backs to roll with. And then they also, I believe, used their franchise tag on Justin Simons, their safety, so that locks up another great defensive piece for a very defensive-oriented team. What do you think of the Broncos?
Isn't there who's their quarterback right now? That's like
Drew Lock.
Don't they have Joe Flacco still?
No,
Is
they
he still the
dropped Joe
backup?
Flacco. They dropped Joe Flacco. He got cut.
I mean, yeah, Drew Lock. I mean, he's untested really, but
he had a. I mean, look at him when he played last season. After that shoulder injury that sidelined him at the start of the season, those last couple games, he was putting up numbers.
they were kind of nice at the end, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd be happy to see them try to do something. I used to be a Broncos fan for a little bit when Peyton Manning was there, so I mean, that'd be nice to see.
And then a heartwarming story here: Teddy Bridgewater getting to become a starting quarterback in the league again. Him going to the Carolina Panthers after they cut Cam Newton. It's gonna be interesting to see if Teddy can channel that Vikings Teddy Bridgewater with this team, and see what he can do with this team that has Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel. They just picked up Robbie Anderson. They got just three very young, fast receivers. They have one of the most explosive backs in the game. It's just gonna be interesting to see what he can do with that offense. And not to also they signed LSU's offensive coordinator, passing coach, whoever it was. Brady, I forget his first name, but Brady, the guy that made Joe Burrows the Heisman, and now he's going to be in charge of that offense.
Very exciting. Like, I loved watching Teddy Bridgewater in college. Like, he was one of my biggest guys going into the league, like his year, and then he just really didn't get his chance. Like, he just for him, and he got stuck behind. Not really stuck behind Drew Brees, but I mean, on the same team as Drew Brees, and I'm sure that helped him develop. I'm sure that it is game together. You learn from one of the best. So I really hope this works out for him. And I know the Panthers are going to be pretty decent then. Yeah, arguably probably the best running back. I mean, Chris McCaffrey is just
talk about that. I mean,
unbelievable. Like, you can't.
That whole division is going to be tough. The Panthers, the Saints, the Bucks, and the Falcons. It's going to be a tough division.
I mean, that division got a lot of rework. Very good to see. It's going to be a very hard one. I like that, though.
And then I guess it's time to talk about. We talked about the Panthers. What is the next step for Cam Newton?
I mean, like, really about the biggest teams that need a quarterback. You look at the Chargers. You look at the Patriots. Like, you got teams out there. You got Cam Newton. You got Jameis Winston. So it's kind of like,
I don't think Jameis will be. I don't think Jameis is getting a starting job. I think I could see Jameis going somewhere like Pittsburgh or some team. Jameis is not going to go somewhere where he'll be a starter. But I think Cam will, and I
Last
really
year,
think the best football move for Cam Newton is to go play for the LA Chargers.
I think so. I think that'd be very good. I mean, that's a big market team.
Mm-hmm.
I just needs his chance to kind of show he's still an elite quarterback.
I think he is. That's what's been. I
I think he is.
Cam Newton gets
I mean,
slandered
he only
all
have
the
to play
time in
one
the
game.
media. Yeah, exactly.
You
And Cam always gets
have to play what,
slandered.
2 games?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
It's just
yeah, you
I
saw like he
feel
won a Super Bowl not too
exact.
long ago.
Mm-hmm.
What, 15-1 that season too?
Mm-hmm. I just feel
Like
that
that's
Cam is always just slandered by the media just because of just the way he acts, how he is, and then it's just everyone's he's not a good quarterback. He can't throw. I love Cam Newton. I feel like he gets way too much hate, and I feel like once his career is
yeah.
all said and done, there's gonna be so many people gonna look back and be like, "Wow, we had Cam Newton and we didn't appreciate him. We didn't appreciate the greatness that he brought, the culture that he brought to football."
I mean, I'd say the Panthers would regret this if they didn't sign Teddy Bridgewater. That's the only reason I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of go either way. We just have to see how Cam kind of is next year
Mm-hmm. Of course.
because I definitely think he's definitely going to be good enough to start for a team. I just if Teddy's going to be better than him or not, you never know.
Exactly. It's gonna be a waiting
Uh,
game, really. That's what it's gonna
and
come down
then
to.
what? One more big name on the defensive end is Jadeveon Clowney.
Where is he? Do you think he's gonna and is he just? Do you think he's gonna stay with Seattle, or where do you? What do you think? What do you think he's gonna do in Seattle for at least another year? I think he'll probably sign a 1 to 2 year deal to stay in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the rest of the team, you got Russell Wilson, who's always been good. He's
A
always been
god.
careful with the football. He's so good with it. Like he's like I have a big respect for what he does, and just the Legion of Doom is, I mean, the Legion of Doom. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
no way around it.
Yeah, of course.
And Pete done well, and I mean they got what DK Metcalf,
Oh,
who showed out in the
exciting,
playoffs. I mean,
exciting. He's exciting. He's huge and he's
he's
fast and it's
so
just
big and
crazy.
strong and fast, and holy
It's gonna
cow!
be. I'm excited for this NFL season.
Is
I think all these moves were needed just to bring more excitement to the league and just everything. It's gonna be a fun year, I think, in the NFL.
it's not even like it's so early in the
It's so
how
early in the
much
off
more that can
season.
happen. Like we have no idea
We
yet.
don't know. Yeah, exactly. There's still trades that could happen. There's free agency signings, players that could get cut and picked up. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's I mean, then it's just, do you think anyone right now is good enough to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think it's gonna be so tough. I think Patrick Mahomes. I mean, sure, Lamar won the MVP, but I think Patrick Mahomes is undoubtedly the best player in the NFL, and I think he's gonna be
He's
the
hundred
best
percent
player
the
in the.
best.
Oh, he's absurd. He's got such a good team around him. I don't know. It's just he got that win in him now, and I think it's going to be scary to see Patrick Mahomes now that he has that feeling of winning and he has that playoff success. Just to see
He's
what he
so
does.
young.
Oh, he's going to be
Oh my gosh, just
he's going to be terrorizing the league for a
the,
very long
the
time.
the only way I see the Texas or the Chiefs losing is just getting out, like just getting like a high scoring game, like a 50
Shootout, yeah.
something, 50 something game where their defense just doesn't do anything. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that's the only way to beat them at this point. You
For
just
sure.
saw in the playoffs they were down, I think, every single game
They
at
were
some point or
they
at
were down
halftime
by
or
multiple
something like that, and
touchdowns
they just
at halftime every game, and they rallied back and they won every game in the playoffs, obviously, because they made it to the Super Bowl and won it.
Patrick Mahomes just finds a way.
He's so good. He's crazy. It's gonna be fun to see how this season does pan out, though.
This is gonna be one of the better seasons, and hopefully it starts on time and everything.
Hopefully,
We
fingers crossed.
fingers crossed. I mean, anything can happen still.
Yeah, I mean we don't know, but hey, We're ready to, even with all this sportsless times, I think it's safe to say that me and you are ready, and we have so many ideas and so much fun stuff that we want to bring to this podcast that we can help get you guys through this time with no sports and kind of be that sports entertainment that you are looking for.
We're gonna be here. We'll be on top of things. We're still looking out. It's gonna be exciting.
It's
We've
gonna be
got
fun.
a lot of things, a lot of good things coming, and we're ready.
Oh, it's gonna be fun, and I can't wait. And we're just ready to grind. You know, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. So if there's, do you have anything else that you wanted to say while we're on this topic of NFL free agency, or do you think we've hit everything pretty well?
I think we've hit everything pretty well. If there's something you guys know that we haven't hit yet, or if some other big news, like if Jameis or Cam get signed somewhere, we definitely want to talk about that again. So
Of course, yes.
that's something we'll have to definitely bring up for next time. So yeah, anything for you?
No, dude, I think it was a good podcast. I mean, we definitely hit every single big free agency signing and a lot of the NFL and a lot of what they've done. I think it was good. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in to episode 2 of the Goat Sheds podcast. We're going to be posting every Sunday at noon, so check it out then. Go watch any previous episodes, and thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.